I am absolutely delighted and honored to be joined by a fantastic filmmaker who has really put Gujarati cinema on a global map now through his film Chhello Show, last film show, which is showing at the London Indian Film Festival this year, which has its UK premiere. So, Pan Nalin, a warm welcome to you and thank you for joining us on Filme Shilmy.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Pleasure.
Now, I think it's very interesting because when I was watching the film yesterday on the screener, I was very drawn towards seeing the fact that and understanding the fact that you actually left your family at a young age to pursue a career in cinema. So, which aspects of your life were you able to internalize through Samay's character?
Oh, I think more, I would say that most of my childhood, which was spent in Kathiawad in Gujarat, and uh, the most important aspect was this jugad, what Hindi mein bolte hain na, jugadu. So
Ah,
that was the most important internalized. Like, I actually believe when you have nothing, nothing stops you, So that was the main key thing for Sama, even the kid who was playing the role, and I said, like, look, when we were casting, I wanted to find someone who can carry that vision, that who is not scared, who doesn't come up with excuses. Oh, I can't play with a toy train because I don't have toys. He will make one. So that was very important for me. And second was, of course, the innocence. Because as over the years, when I left my family, left Kathiawad, and we get sort of drawn, dive into the world, and cinema, and we read and we write and we get overexposed and overeducated, and so somewhere that innocence goes away.
hmm.
I felt that we just want everything to be highly intellectual, or that the moment we do something simple and innocent, it's just considered not so great. But so for me, after all these years of filmmaking, it was very important that I try to see what I internalized as a kid, what I lived. It was just so simple. It was so innocent, without, we never really thought, oh, we need to catch the light, we need to steal the film reels, we need to do this. I mean, it just, and I thought, when you have that innocence, you have less fear, and that's what I liked, because the sometimes knowledge is good, but knowledge, I find, sometimes is binding. It makes you not to take risk. It makes you, it demands bigger courage. That, oh my god, what will people say? Oh, now I know the Western literature, no, I can't speak about that. Or now I know this, people will think this is Shakespearean tragedy, or so you carry that burden, and you stop yourself from a prolific growth. So, and somehow, I felt that as a kid, what I internalized, we didn't care, whether uh, what we did looks like something we did, or it's inspired from somewhere. We just did it because it came straight from guts, it came from heart, and we wanted to have fun. We just wanted to. So I wanted to look for that light and lightness. Yeah, these were the.
Very interesting. And those are the two motifs, I think, are very prominent, I think, throughout the film is that search for light. The dream, in a way, was presented through light in many forms. And I loved that aspect. But, I think what I'm also very impressed by is the way you use the reels, the cinema building, and the films themselves as instrumental characters. I mean, I actually never I think I look at Jodha Akbar in a very different way now. I think after watching the film, I don't see it as that grand epic anymore. For me, it's actually like it's a dream. It's a huge dream. It's a battle that Samay was fighting, and I think Jodha Akbar in a way kind of represented that. So, what factors as a filmmaker assist you in presenting stationary subjects as the ones that I've mentioned as emotional tropes within a story?
um, I think, I mean, to break down your question into something simpler, what we were trying to do was that when we made a film, the film reels in itself, because we knew this Samay's world is Kathiawad, very real, what's happening with his father, family, friends, small Chalala station, school. But when he escaped to that galaxy cinema, there was another world waiting for him, which was mainly of popular Indian cinema, which is of that time, which was far removed from his reality. And this is something I lived as a kid, and I just realized that there was another world. Every time I went to see a movie, I thought कि एक दुनिया और भी होगी कहीं, ये तो कुछ और ही चल रहा है यहाँ पे, because everything used to be so over the top, so romantic, and one never saw, at least as a kid, I never saw a realistic cinema. I always saw that larger than life thing. So for me, when we conceived the story, one thing was to be organic and go back to my roots. So most of the film was shot where I actually grew up. So most of the location you see, you see my school inside, even the cinema hall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you see the cinema hall Galaxy. That's where I saw my first movie.
Oh,
and
wow.
and that cinema hall was closed since 24 years. And it was being used as a sugarcane storage place. They care sugarcane after the crop, and then they fill up the truck. And so when it got empty, I realized even the chairs were still there, the wooden benches. So we sort of, refurbished the whole cinema hall and redid. And I said, okay, I'm going to shoot here now. So it was that important for me, because somehow I realized that all this is going to go. And as we speak today, 2 years down, we finished filming in March 2020, and today already, whole lot of is destroyed. They are trying to make a supermarket there. The railway station, like in the movie, it was fiction, when he says broad gauge is going to come. That's what happened to my father. But now in that particular railway station where we filmed, actually the broad gauge and electric line is coming.
Oh, wow.
So the last scene we see in the climax, that station is changed now. That beautiful old architecture has modern buildings next to it. So for me, the 4 or 5 elements were very important. One is, of course, we had written like big F, in our production office for my cast and crew to be constantly, have an awakened mind towards F for film, F for family, F for friends, F for food, F for future. And we said, like, look, we are all here to pursue this 5F, film, friends, family, food, and this is the celebration. These are the 5 big memories from what I take away from my childhood. And I want this to be a prominent part of the storytelling. There's everything else is going to happen around it. So the film reels, were really important. And then along with a cinematographer, we try to find a way that, how do we now express this cinematically? So, we sort of worked out an internal grammar between me and him. This is not for audience to decode, but just for us that, okay, every time we will have images of film reels or food, we will try to do what we call God's point of view, like, heaven looking down.
True.
So we make sure that when we came on film and food, we often went, top angle shots, while mother is cooking, or sometime while character of Fazal, who is projectionist, while he's eating, or he's rewinding the film, or in the end, when they are piling up the can. So I think this kind of a pattern, we were just trying to invent that simplicity, I would say simple innocence, but with some kind of a lyricism, poetic dimension to the images, that is just not flat information. Oh, here is a food, here is a film.
Right.
So that it becomes a bigger metaphor, because as you know, hum Hindi mein bolte hi hai masala film, So masala film, is the spices, like let's spice up with everything. So there was already an established link with the food, that how the food, and here at Samay ends up swapping his lunchbox with Fazal, and so even the food became pretty important part, that, in masala food versus masala entertainment exchange,
Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting as well. Actually, Bharela Bhinda ne Patra join. I think બધા ને ભૂખ જ લાગી હશે. I'm pretty sure. Like
Yeah.
Mansujari Joshi, I think they're gonna definitely want to have some of that food. But I think that's the beautiful thing about the story, you know. And I think that's what I really quite liked, and I highlighted that in my review, is the fact that you didn't abuse a very Slumdog Millionaire approach, you know, in sort of portraying the fact
Yeah,
that, you know, these are people from a very lower
yeah,
economical
yeah.
background. They're well economically challenged. You know, I'm glad you didn't highlight that
Yeah.
Garibai and just to put it in your face, because I get really annoyed when they do that, because it's not nice.
Yes,
You know, it's a
and
huge.
also very often when the West looks at the poverty in India is also very one-dimensional poverty,
Yeah, true.
because the thing is that there are so many people, like all the kids I have in my film, they all come from a very modest or very poor background, and you can go to their villages, you can see how they live. It's because somehow they don't have that huge reference that, oh, we are poor. They are super happy in their life. They're really, as far as they know, they are getting nice, small hut, small house to live. Sometimes 6 of them are living inside, but they are smiling the moment you go there. They have enough food to eat. The one father is a cobbler, one is an auto rickshaw driver. So it's not that pathetic, pitiful poverty,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
it is the opposite. I see the rich people in the same village far more frustrated, far more stressed out
True.
than
Yeah.
these kids.
I
So
know it's true. I've seen that. I've observed that as well, actually. Yeah, that is so
yeah.
true.
And the second thing was that all these places, we didn't do anything. They are considered poorest part of, if you read history of Gujarat or even Wikipedia, they'll tell you the poorest part of Gujarat. They are spotlessly clean.
Yeah.
So when we show poverty, it's always dirty. I mean, and that's not true. I mean, it could be true for kids living on a Bombay local train in Mumbai. Yeah, but the around, a lot of the tribes who live in India, the villages, and main example is Kachiawad, that you can go to a village which still has hardly 3 hours per day electricity, but it's really clean. I mean, they have managed, and we didn't clean up, and my crew, some of them who have lived all their life in Mumbai, first time came to Kathiyawad. They were really surprised to go deep into interior of such villages, because
Mm.
normally when they make movie they don't go to such places because there are no hotels to stay.
Mm.
And the most of the popular entertainment or Bollywood have to shoot where there are 5-star hotels because of star system. So they end up going to Rajasthan, they end up going to Goa, they end up going to places where there are 5-star hotels within 1 hour drive. So a lot of interiors are unexplored. That's one of the reasons very few film is shot in this region, because there's no 5-star hotel. Our
Mm.
line producer told, my DP asked them, cinematographer, that why such amazing location, why no one comes here to shoot by this lake? And he said, यहाँ कोई होटल ही नहीं है 5-star, कोई नहीं आएगा इधर, एयरपोर्ट नहीं है, और गुजरात ड्राई स्टेट है, दारू नहीं मिलता है.
No, but it's true actually. But I think this is one thing that I really love, because I think there was another film as well that released or had its premiere in UK recently as well, called Kape. And that was a Gujarati film. And again, it's a very progressive film, which again, the protagonist is financially challenged, economically challenged, but yet is striving for a better future. And it's very progressive in a way. And I think I'm very happy to see such stories emerge in Gujarati cinema. But before I go on to the Gujarati cinema and the way it's evolving and the revival that's happening at the moment, I read somewhere that in Baroda you became aware of world cinema. Obviously, you've grown up watching around, growing up around Hindi cinema and the masala films, as you mentioned, as well as traditional folklore. So how have you absorbed these stories in your life? And to, I guess, make a fusion of all these exposures that you've had to cinema, do you have you ever compartmentalized these different subjects, or is it all just a big khichdi in your mind and then it explodes on screen?
I think in early stage, I let it organically flow everything, because as you said rightly, early days, I didn't even know even there was a Hollywood, forget the world cinema, because I never saw anything besides Bollywood. It's only when I arrived in Baroda, I had to learn English in order to go to the university. And my friends in the hostel said, we are going to go and see English movie. So I said, oh, that's cool. I want to come, tag along. And that's how we saw some Westerns, playing there. And I kept going back to discover the Hollywood cinema. And suddenly it was like somebody who has only eaten khichdi and rotla all his life is tasting spaghetti,
Yeah, true.
or something Japanese sushi. I said, like, I don't know this taste at all. I don't know the stories are told this way too. Then and when the first film got over, I really looked at my friends and they made fun of me. I said, I think what happened? Did they cut out all the songs? He said, "Oh, no, this movie in Western, there are no songs." I said,
Right.
"Oh, there are no songs in a movie? Like, how is that possible?" And
Yeah.
it just bugged me like hell that how is that there is no songs in the story? Because I never ever occurred to me that you could tell a story without a song. It just didn't occur to me. So when I discovered Hollywood, and in the same cinema hall, I saw there was a little poster saying a film club, and every Sunday morning they used to screen cinema from the world around. So, and they used to screen 50 movies in a 1 year, every Sunday, one movie. It'll be, Italian neorealism, or French New Wave, or so then I said, oh my God, there is something else, now. So I found few books which were there. Very few books were there about cinema theories and films, and that's when the whole world started. So of course I dived fully into it, and over the 5-6 years I ran the film club there, tried to make short movies with a small Bolex camera. But when all that got over and I moved to sort of Mumbai to struggle to get into the cinema, I very soon I realized that I have to kind of unlearn, not
Hmm.
learn but unlearn, because I'm going wrong way. I'm not going to make Hollywood. Neither I'm going to become Godard, and neither. So and I knew that young filmmaker had a drive that they were all trying to make Godard like short film, Robert Bresson like composition, and I realized there was something not right about that. Something which was lacking. And so this is when I started sort of giving value to my upbringing, because my parents hardly knew how to read or write, but they had a different type of wisdom, because when you have not read many books and not seen the world, you have a different type of wisdom, which is very local, but there is something very universal about it. So in that spiritual kind of upbringing, I sort of reverted back to where I came from, and then I sort of traveled across India first time, just backpacking. I said I just need to know where I come from, like where the people tell stories, and that kind of really helped me process. So as you said, in those days there was a khichdi, but that process of unlearning helped me. I said, okay, I have to find who am I, and I want to tell stories which I fall in love with. I want to make films which I want to watch. Rest doesn't matter, that I want to enjoy the process of filmmaking. And there will be conscious and unconscious level influences, because by then I had read and watched so much of cinema and music and painting and all kind of different forms of arts, and one has sort of been exposed to the tough side of life to survive as a student and arriving in Mumbai with no money. So there was all that was also parallel existence, feeding, fiction into reality, reality into fiction. So that in somewhere I realized for me it was important to go and find what would I love to do,
Mhm.
And the very first thought was that it was impossible for me to join 21 year ago Bollywood, because it was so closed, and it just outsider had no role unless you were a technician, so, and
True.
or you have to become assistant of a director for 4 or 5 years and slowly you come up, which I didn't want. So I realized that I enjoy traveling, I love movies, and that's parts of my growing up. So I started doing a lot more documentaries, and that helped me to travel and keep making movies. And at the same time, I started writing screenplays. I had like
Mm.
5, 6, 7 screenplays which no one wanted to put money in. But
Mm.
that whole process, when I was writing and doing documentary, I became kind of clearer, and sort of more focused on what I want to do. So that chaos, I mean, there was some kind of clarity in that chaos.
Right. And I think going by what you've described to me, લાગે છે કે independence અને spirituality, these two aspects are very pivotal themes of your life. When it comes to spirituality, I found that even through last film show, in a way, energy, passion her to film ate, it becomes a puja, it becomes a reverence for him as well. And it almost seems like cinema has been a reverence for you as well in many, many senses as well. How important is it to have spirituality, do you think, Nalin Bhai? In fact, when as a filmmaker, because like you said, you've gone through a lot of struggles, you've seen life from, you know, the hardest days. How important is it to have spirituality, do you think?
I think it's very important. That's something I really credit to my parents. Who told me when I was started making movies. So my mother and father both used to tell me that ठीक है तू जे करते कर पर थोड़ोक आध्यात्मिक एंगल રાખજે તારી વાર્તાઓમાં. That means keep little spiritual touch to it. And I said, like, why more? He said, look, when you have that, આખું ગામ તારી વાર્તાને સાંભળશે, આપણું આખું ગામ. અને જો આપણું આખું ગામ તારી વાર્તાને સાંભળશે તો આખું યુનિવર્સ, આખી દુનિયા તને સાંભળશે. એટલે she told me that basically if you have attention of your entire village, the whole universe will have attention to your story. So it's basically what we try to do today, filmmaker try to make very global, local story to go global. But this was in essence, it was very important. And then slowly over the years, I realized when I started watching movies, in my mind, I started analyzing it on my own way. That, okay, even I say Yojimbo of Kurosawa is such a great film. But when I go down deep into some of the Kurosawa movies, they have such a, if you study Japanese culture, it's deeply rooted in spirituality.
True.
Even you are a samurai warrior, he will have a Zen touch. He will meet a Zen monk, he will have a tea ceremony, and all those, what is important to Japanese culture, is sort of introvert. So the idea of faith, whether its level of spirituality can be low or not, but even the masterpiece silent movie like Joan of Arc, from there to you take Star Wars, today, none of them expect, none of them sort of ignore spiritual aspect of what they are trying to do, and George Lucas himself said that, look, I had to really deeply root and look into Oriental and Asian philosophy to give that force, and that line, force be with you, actually came from Japanese martial arts spiritual literature, and that there are dark forces and light forces. So I think whether it's Matrix, whether it's superhero movies, today we see they try to create either a fake spirituality within the superhero's belief system, that something comes from deep somewhere unknown, and so they try to take away religion out, and take spirituality. So I do feel that great stories are spiritual, whether it's horror, romance, whatever. They always have some kind of interesting, and that's what makes for me the stories interesting, because if you have that underlying spiritual level, suddenly the film has a different type of depth, because today, whether we practice or not, when I say spiritual, I don't speak of religion at all. We all have our own spirituality. I feel that, the French doctors, Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Border, when they go and work, and when you speak why they do that without money, go to places where 52-degree temperature, war, they put their life in danger. And you listen to their interviews, they are not talking about religion, but they have that spiritual awakening within them, that there is a call, that it makes me feel so good that when I do this gesture, so I love to go rather than sit in a clinic and cure people. So for me, that's very wide sense. And I always realize that my characters should have some kind of a belief system, when I make a movie, that makes them more grounded, more relatable to people who are watching the film, and and I think it's part of our upbringing, I'm sure, like most of the Indian families, and I was no exception, and it's in our DNA, the certain spiritual aspect.
Absolutely. I mean, we've grown up hearing about Mahabharata and Ramayana, you know what I mean? And in Hinduism as well, there's so many, like these are not just texts, but these are actually life principles that we can follow. We're all in a dilemma of sorts, and I think that's what is so beautiful and very rightly said there. So actually, I also found it very interesting or fascinating how in a way, a progression of cinema, so going from the real system to the digital one, was portrayed in a bit of a tragic light, in a bit of a sad way. But is it really that sad though? I mean, in the sense that obviously digital cinema has, of course, been a major lifesaver for all of us during the pandemic. So what was your idea behind portraying it in a bit of a tragic way in the film?
I think there were two angles to it. One is to embrace the change. That's why I have a pretty different kind of ending of the movie, the very end of the climax. So where we sort of embrace the change. Where even Samai smiles. And we know that everything is not tragic. It has found a new form. It is maybe a reincarnation or avatar of something else. What film became later, maybe is what women are wearing today in India. So everything continues. So one is to sort of embrace the change, like not to say, oh, this was tragic and it's all over. No. Yeah. But what happened to the film, at the very end, I didn't wanted people to carry the tragic message with them. That is one of the reasons, sort of to pay tribute to all the films and in a celebratory manner, that it's all about colors. They all exist within us. Nothing is gone. It exists in a different form. The before, prior to that, what really happened to cinema was, it's very quickly forgotten in 10 years. It was extremely brutal also for people who worked in the industry. So there are, now I have some kind of a figure thanks to the film, because we have shown movie in more than now 40 countries, and whether it's Taiwan, Mexico, last month it was Argentina, exactly the same story. Number of people became unemployed. The projector operator, number of single screen which were, shut down, not before pandemic. I'm talking about in 2010, 11, when digital came. So it is not to blame digital. It's arrival of, because of digital, the corporation came, and the multiplexes took over the diffusion. So which means the multiplexes, the rich company owned the satellite. They were sending the film to the cinema hall. So suddenly, that whole lot of film across the world who loved cinema, who worked 40 years of their life, like Fazal in the movie, the projector operator, they all went jobless. In India today, around 6,000 cinema halls are standing in ruin, not operating. And we have a friend who is a photographer who is trying to photograph them. We probably will do exhibition when this movie releases in India of these photographs.
Amazing.
And it's a stunning, you can't believe that 2,000 seat theater is in ruins, complete, and they are so far away in small town that their even real estate value is not big. In the big cities, cinema hall turn into hotels and apartment complexes like Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, because the demand of real estate was so high. But in the small town, it's the opposite. No one want to touch this, ruins, and because it'll cost them so much of money, and the cinema hall is only worth the plot of land. And some of them have beautiful art deco, kind of architecture, because they were built in 40s and 50s, when art deco cinema hall was very popular across India, just after the Second World War. Wow. So I think for me that was, something was heartbreaking when real life Fazal Bhai, who is a projectionist, when I met him and he told me how unhappy he was in his life after spending 30 years in the projection booth, and his father spent 40 years as a projector operator. Collectively, father, son had spent 70 years in the same cinema hall,
Wow.
Same projection booth. And this was the story everywhere you go in India. It was just not one. And many people who have seen it, they've come forward and said, look, this happened in Italy. This happened, Isle of Skye, in Scotland is doing a show on 25th. And I said, like, why are you suddenly after this movie? He said, you don't know. This is our story, what happened in Galaxy. This is exactly what happened in our small community, in a small one cinema hall. And we are today don't have a cinema hall. Right. So they have come together and collected money and opened their own cinema hall.
Right. Wonderful. But look, I think, Nalin, we've got to wrap up soon. But before I go, I want to sort of ask you a big question split into two parts. Number one, આપણે જોઈએ છે કે ગુજરાતી સિનેમા એક revival થાય છે હવે, thanks to films like Hello,
Mm.
Abhishek Jain's cinema as well with the films like Beyar. It's really doing amazingly, and I'm really happy to see this change. So firstly, what can we all do as Gujaratis to ensure that the cinema continues to evolve and prosper? That's one part of the question. Second part of the question is Havesu. After last film show, what's next for you, and when can we expect to see this actually officially releasing in cinema?
Yes. So I think the first part is that it's very simple. I would encourage every Gujarati everywhere in the world to go and see the movie when it comes out in cinema hall. One, it's going to come out in most of the countries. It's coming out everywhere. US, UK. It will be theatrically released. If it's inconvenient, do catch it later when it comes on. I think in UK it will come on Channel 4.
Okay.
So maybe you'll have second opportunity to watch, and then third opportunity on a streaming platform. The sad part for me that it was really, I tried very hard to show the movie to Gujarati distributors, and it was really tough. And finally, the recognition of my movie came from outside, like Tribeca, the Robert De Niro, Jane Rosenthal, their whole team watched the movie and invited us to do the world premiere in New York. And then it was only international film festival. Like Spain gave us the best picture award. It took really about 8 months for someone in Gujarat to pay attention to the movie,
Oh, no.
and so it was a little bit, I was a bit disappointed because I really wanted to do a bigger, then of course there was a pandemic, but we thought we'll do a bigger show, in Ahmedabad. And so now I'm really happy that people, because I realize Gujarati community have a little bit of reluctance to see Gujarati cinema. Now this is what they
Definitely.
tell me.
Yeah.
Oh, Gujarati film, Emma શું જોવાનું હોય? Nothing.
Absolutely. Abbas Hasfano has said that's literally the
Yes.
same image. True.
Yes. So in Atlanta was my first true Gujarati audience in USA. Even though it was a diaspora audience, there were 600 Gujarati people watching the movie. And then they said, "Oh my God, what just happened?" And I knew, and they said, "Oh, we were not." And then they all started confessing themselves that "Amare to avano plan જ નહોતો, અમારે પરાણે આવવું પડ્યું," But now we saw the movie. What a film! I want my son to see, my daughter to see, this one to see, And then it started exploding, and. Then the Gujarati, motivational speaker and filmmaker, and they saw the movie and they started talking about it. So it's just so recent. In last 4 weeks, Gujarati community is waking up to say, okay, we could have a good Gujarati cinema. So please do watch it.
Yeah.
Wherever
Definitely.
you get a chance to, right now it's going to be in London and Birmingham. It will be a great place to, I would be really happy to see some Gujarati people in the audience. It will make me happy, because so far I've had nothing but Western audience in my, or Taiwanese people, or Fribourg. If you look at a lot of posts we have done, and we are looking for more, Gujarati people to come and enjoy their own story. And the film will be released across Gujarat, either in September or October. Between September to Diwali, we will have a pretty important release in Gujarat and India. It might be even dubbed in Tamil, Telugu.
Oh, beautiful.
This will be like a first film, Gujarati film, to be dubbed in Tamil, Telugu, because the distributor from there loved the movie and have contacted us that, like, look, can we take the dubbing right and release the film? So that conversation is also going on. The US release will happen also in August, September by Samuel Goldwyn Films. It's releasing in Japan, everywhere, in fact.
Wonderful. But no, look, I think times have definitely changed now, and I can understand the reactions that you got there. But now, thanks to people like I said, Abhishek Jain, who's obviously got his own streaming platform called Oho Gujarati now, I think the floodgates have definitely opened, I think.
No, and also thanks to you, because I really, we need more people like you, who sort of, not because you gave me 5-star, it's because someone who even can start a dialogue over Gujarati films, and say that, okay, I've reviewed the film and you watch, because there has also been that kind of reluctance that what is there to review in a Gujarati film,
Yeah. Believe me, honestly, after Hello, it's really opened up my mind and my attention to the Gujarati cinema, what we're seeing, and trust me, it's only going to get bigger and better from here.
Better, yes, yes.
Nalin Bhai. And I really hope you make more films in Gujarati, please. I know sometimes getting support is the hard part, but please do make it. Honestly,
Yes.
it's wonderful to see more stories from me. But on that note, I just wanted to say a huge, huge thank you, Nalin Bhai, for joining me on Filme Shilmy. Tamaro khub khub abar, and congratulations on such a wonderful film, Chhello Show, which is obviously screening at the London Indian Film Festival and Birmingham Indian Film Festival. And I cannot wait to see more great films and content coming from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Nalin Bhai. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.